We're live.
We're live. And it's 7. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Bateman? Blair?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Here.
Mr. Ping?
Here.
So Andy is out of town. He's going to join us as soon as he can via Zoom, but just on the safe side, I think we should have a motion to excuse him. Never is able to join us. And if he does join us, we'll certainly make that known.
I move to exclude the wandering Mr. Bateman.
To excuse. How about excuse?
Is that what I said?
Let's not exclude him.
Oh, excuse.
Okay. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Welcome, everyone. With us, we have the Director of Finance, Mark Medler, our Assistant City Manager, Corey Wright, Clerk of Council, Misty Brent, City Manager, Dave Kennedy, City Solicitor, Joe Braun, and Lieutenant Spock is here as our Sergeant-at-Arms. Also with us, we have former council members Neil Orey, Todd Osborne, and Pat Mays. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. And first up is a proclamation celebrating John Hill Construction. Join me at the podium. All right, ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Do you want you have a wife up here? Sure. I mean, she's on the proclamation.
Good.
She should be here. All right. Whereas John and Patty Hill launched John Hill Construction in 1997, a family-owned and operated business and a member of the National Association of Home Builders that focuses on building homes, additions, and remodels. And whereas in 2001, John and Patty purchased the O'Bannon Building in the historic district of Loveland, and during the renovation found historical items dating back to 1883, one being an envelope addressed to John O'Bannon, a historic figure from the area, and inspiration for the naming of the building. And whereas the renovations at the O'Bannon Building were recognized by the city, who awarded John Hill Construction with the city's Business Enhancement Award and Beautification Award. And whereas John has been an active member of the community by serving on the city's Citizens Advisory Zoning Committee, the Redevelopment Advisory Committee, and the Stormwater Advisory Committee. In addition, John served on the Loveland Area Chamber of Commerce's Board of Trustees and is awarded the 5 Under 5 Award and the Trustee of the Year Award for his efforts. And whereas over the past 25 years, John Hill Construction has completed several notable projects, including the O'Bannon Building, the Joanne Richardson House at the Loveland Museum Center, which is a Frank Lloyd Wright-inspired home. Oh, no, another one, a Frank Lloyd Wright-inspired home outside Lebanon, the refurbishment of the World War II Roll Call Monument at the Loveland Museum Center, and a library in what is known as the Cantaloupe King's secret liquor room constructed during Prohibition. Maybe you can explain that.
I will.
And whereas John Hill Construction endeavors to make its clients' dreams come true by connecting the right designers, architects, supplies, tradespeople, and artisans. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Bailey, by the power vested in me as mayor of the city of Loveland, and on behalf of City Council and residents, do hereby congratulate John Hill Construction on their 25th anniversary.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. Quick explanation on the Cantaloupe King. If you Google it, it's actually a rags to riches story of somebody who first, I think they worked at Findlay Market as a kid, and he's the first one to ship cantaloupe refrigerated. And he made a fortune, and he built a beautiful house in North Avondale. And he had this secret. It was Prohibition. So there's this beautiful wood wall of mantels and floor-to-ceiling woodwork about 20 feet tall, but actually there's a panel that was removed and leads down into what was his liquor storage room. And the current owners had us come in and turn it into a beautiful library and bourbon tasting. Just a cool project. So on a historic house down in Cincinnati. So again, I want to thank all of you for serving, doing what you do for the city. back when I was on the Chamber of Commerce, I was the government liaison, so I was involved in all those things that you mentioned. And I found out what they got paid, and I thought, oh my God. So thanks for your service. So I was shocked. Hopefully it's changed. But
It hasn't.
it was funny writing up the brief history of our company and to send it in, and thanks for editing it and getting it nicer. And one of the things I mentioned is we had a period of time, about a month, to discern whether we were going to start our own company or I was going to go look for a job. And I said in my note, in that month, I was thoughtful, prayerful, and I asked other business owners their advice. And one of them is right here. I don't know if you remember this, at the old Kroger's across from Castle Skateland. And I got nothing but encouragement. I mean, actually kind of almost maybe a competitor because he was a remodeling guy. So that I'm thankful for that. Very thankful and appreciative. So that was an important part. And tomorrow we're having a dedication of the flagpole by our office at 10 o'clock. Anybody would like to come by. It's kind of today's Flag Day, but we have our thing tomorrow. And I wanted to read that the flagpole dedication is a plaque at the bottom of it. I'm going to read it to you. It says this flag is dedicated to all the men and women who labored so hard to make our clients' dreams come true. With sincere gratitude and appreciation, John and Ben Hill. We also have a time capsule buried below there. I said don't open until 2071. Yeah, 2071. So if you really want to play a mental mind game on yourself, decide to put a time capsule in the ground and have 3 days to decide what goes in it. So, and I'm glad I won't be around when somebody opens it up because you just think back and you're like, what was I thinking? I hope that somebody doesn't think crazy things about us. But so I'm very grateful and I appreciate the recognition. And anybody that's available or interested, welcome. And also one of the things, one of the signs we have on our little parking lot over there is, and this is to anybody, is free parking to friends of John Hill Construction anytime after business hours. So if anybody's having a hard time finding a place to park, you're always welcome at our place over there after hours. So thank you very much. Thanks for this and the encouragement. And we appreciate it very much. So thanks very much.
Okay, open forum. Pat Mace.
Good evening, Council. My name's Pat Mays. I live at 1126 Cottonwood Drive, obviously Loveland, Ohio. First, thank goodness we all got power back after the terrible storms and the stifling heat. I want to address a speaker who addressed Council at the May 24th meeting. On that day, Kim Lucan addressed Council with her opinions about our charter. She threw out the term autocratic government in relation to it not being a true democracy. She also alluded about more power and control. She also said she wasn't sure who put the charter together. Well, since 1961, it's been the citizens and council did, and then it was voted on by the citizens in Loveland. As a longtime citizen of Loveland, a person who served on city council, served on committees then and now, I was really offended by her misinformation and knowledge. As a person who had ran for a council seat and to know nothing about the framework of the charter, well, I wonder. I sat on the Charter Review Commission. We met twice a month for almost 2 years between 2017 and 2019. We reviewed all the past charters from 1961, thank you Todd Osborne for the original copies, to the prior charter up to the current one. It came before council, all voting yes, and then it was sent to the voters of Loveland. Anyone could come to the public meetings. When they were noted, and they were all public, and very few people actually came. The minutes were public online as well as review of our charter notes. We worked diligently. We worked hard, and with the help of Joe Braun to help guide us, answer questions, and keep us on task with legal issues, as well as Mr. Phelps, it was a real job. So to me and the voters of Loveland, Miss Lucan, this is true democracy, 100%. So thank you for allowing me to set the record straight about how the charter and democracy work in the city of Loveland.
Thank you. Ms. Gentry?
Shonda Gentry, 403 Pintail Drive. First, I want to thank the city, the school district, and especially Duke Energy for getting our power back and taking such good care of all of the city residents while the power was off. Thank you also to the city for engaging an archaeological survey to eliminate any issues or concerns about an Indian burial mound where the proposed parking garage will go. And most importantly, thank you to the Loveland Police for the work that you are doing and have done to help find Alicia Kinney. She's a friend of my son's and a family friend. And what her family is coping with right now is just beyond anything I would ever want to. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, next is the letter from Duke Energy. Do we want to explain what that is, Mr. Kennedy or Mr. Wright?
Duke Energy is when they submit a any proposed rate increase to PUCO, Public Utilities Commission Ohio, they're required by law to notify local municipalities. So Misty felt it would be important to put that out there. It's definitely down the road. One of the things that benefits our residents is through our aggregation program, we can lock in certain rates. While our rates can be impacted by the carrier fee, handling charges, we still can provide our residents, especially now, because our natural gas rates, if you recall, when we came to you, we asked you to consider locking them in for a longer period of time so we can help protect our residents' natural gas rates through this. The aggregation program, and I believe, Todd, you might have been a part of it. I know Ted was. It really is a wonderful thing for our residents. All you have to do is work at City Hall when we're doing any modifications to it and field numerous phone calls from residents that just simply want to make sure that they're still in the program. And because those that deal with it know that it really, truly represents a savings. So we'll keep you up to date as this goes through. This is simply the initial notification, and Misty felt that it was important that we include it as communication. So we'll keep everybody up to date on it.
Thank you. All right. Next is the minutes from the February 19th, 2022 City Council meeting. Does anybody have any comments, changes to those minutes? That was our goal setting meeting. All right, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve. Second.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next is the minutes from the May 24th, 2022 City Council meeting. Any comments or changes to those? A motion to approve.
Move to approve. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, next we have the public hearing. There's a request for local historic designation. So before we open the meeting, do you want to explain, Mr. Kennedy, what we're doing here?
Yeah, so everyone knows the Historic Preservation and Planning Commission. The City Council formally formed them a couple years back, and then in 21, the City Council approved our design guidelines and our historic preservation boundaries. Prior to that, when the city first became a certified local government as recognized by the Ohio Historic Preservation Office, City Council passed a historic preservation ordinance that simply laid down the groundwork for the creation of the Historic Preservation and Planning Commission, but it also outlined the powers and duties of the Historic Preservation, who very much like the Planning Commission serves as a recommending body on land use issues. The Historic Preservation Commission serves as a recommending body on historic preservations. One of the duties and powers that the Historic Preservation Commission has is to review requests for local historic designation. Everyone knows there's such a thing as national historic preservation, there's a state designation, and there's local. So part of what the city does on top of them having to review requests for construction, siting, and signs and everything, they also field applications for properties that can be deemed a locally designated historic structure. The city actually designed a very nice plaque. We put a lot of time in it because we don't ever envision ourselves changing it. So the first structure ever was the homestead at the White Pillars homestead. City Council transferred that to the CIC. The CIC then sold that property. I will have you know that the CIC sold that property not based upon value, but based upon who they felt could do the best job of restoring it. They also added an added layer of protection over the long-term history of that building by making it a historic. As the property owner, they asked me to fill out an application. We had that as a locally historic designation property. It was approved by the Historic Preservation Commission and then approved by City Council. Why they did that, not only because it truly is a historic structure in the city, is that made sure that while you have that circle of your design guideline boundaries, so everything that happens in there has to go, anytime there's a locally designated, no matter where it is in regards to those boundaries, it too must be protected. So that building will never be painted purple. That building will never have an inappropriate addition. Imagine all of those things are layer protection. So with that, we have tried to get other people to interest to potentially do that. So it's not just properties, it can be land. It's not just structures, it can also be land. So we recently received 2 applications, one for the Ramsay Paxton Cemetery located in the White Pillars subdivision, and also the Hill Wagner Cemetery, which should be noted that came to notification or really came to the forefront to the city through an Eagle Scout project, which the city has benefited immensely over the years. Probably 2 or 3 a year, and I've been here for 8. So that's quite a lot of projects, including one that was recently done. So that sort of rose to the city's attention of how important that was, that cemetery was. So with that, the Historic Preservation held a public hearing, received the applications, reviewed requests, and made a formal recommendation, just like the Planning Commission was, that those buildings would be designated as locally historic properties. So with that, City Council has the option to do or not to do a public hearing. Mayor Bailey and I thought, since this program is sort of in infancy, that we should always try to do public hearings. It's important that people know what they're doing. We wouldn't be talking about this tonight, obviously. So with that, we went ahead and set a public hearing for tonight, 14th. It was ran as required by the city charters, and we're ready for that. So
Okay. Can we have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open the public hearing.
We might need to be a little more specific on what it is for.
Motion to open the public hearing to discuss the designation of historical preservation for the Ramsay Paxton Cemetery and the Hill Wagner cemeteries.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Payne,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. And we do have Rob Geiger signed up to speak. Mr. Geiger.
For the ones that have not been watching the news media, we did come to a big project, and that is to help restore the Ramsay Paxton Cemetery. And we had our formal dedication May the 7th. Thank you for the ones that did participate by coming out. It was a drizzly, cool day, but we made it. But it was a big event for the family. I am the 6th great-grandson of Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Paxton and the 5th great-grandson of Captain John Ramsey and Isabella Paxton Ramsey. What is so unique about the cemetery, and sometimes we do not read into the history of it, but I have a little bit of a sketch here, and that Thomas Paxton was born in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania in 1739. He married Isabella Quate of Bedford County, Pennsylvania around 1765. He fought in the American Revolution and rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel in 1777. Paxton dined at Valley Forge with General Washington as one of the officers of the day of December 25th, 1777. In 1794, Paxton was handpicked by General Wayne to lead the advance guard in the Battle of Fallen Timbers after he traveled the east side of the Little Miami River to go back home to Kentucky and spotted land. He wanted to settle in the vicinity of the Obannon Creek and the Little Miami River. In 1795, Paxton brought his sons-in-laws, John Ramsey, Owen Todd. By the way, Owen Todd is his brother is the grandfather of Mary Todd Lincoln. So that is an interesting tidbit. Silas Hutchison, James Smith, and they settled what is now known as Loveland, Ohio. Paxton is credited in the Virginia Military Tract, Clermont County, first permanent settler, first log cabin, planted the first field of corn. The first Presbyterian church service was held in his log cabin. The first voting poll in Clermont County was in his cabin. In 1801, Paxton was elected as auditor of supervisor's accounts in Obannon Township, which later became Miami Township. Paxton lived to be about 73, 74 years old and was buried March 1813 in the Ramsey Paxton Cemetery. Captain John Ramsey was born in Pennsylvania in 1764. He married Isabella Paxton, daughter of Thomas Paxton, in Mercersburg, Pennsylvania on September 3rd, 1788. The History of Clermont County by J.L. Rocky and also R.J. Bancroft, published in 1880, recorded in 1794, John met with an accident during his military duties and his leg was later amputated. He was still considered a remarkable marksman. With John Ramsey, he moved to Clermont County with his father-in-law, Thomas Paxton, in 1795. John Ramsey and Isabella were one of the first pioneer families to attend the Methodist Episcopal Church in Milford in 1797. In 1801, John Ramsey served as a lister of taxable properties for Obannon Township. John Ramsey was one of the men counted in the 1801 Northwest Territory census that was taken to admit Ohio into statehood. John Ramsey lived to be 84 years old and was buried on August 29th, 1847. So many times we think about the men, and there's a lot of things that are mentioned, but the women folk get slighted. I would also like to bring up Isabella Paxton Ramsey. She was born in 1768. Several years of her childhood, she would have been seeing her father to ride off to war. After her marriage in Pennsylvania to Captain John Ramsey, she and her young family soon moved to the frontier of Kentucky in 1789. Then Isabella and her family moved to the wilderness of the Northwest Territory in 1796. Isabella and her husband John raised her sons, Robert, George, John, William, and Jesse, and daughters, Susanna and Isabella. Isabella Paxton Ramsey was a perfect example of a pioneer wife and mother, as well as a true daughter of American Revolution. She was buried on July 4th in 1837, again at the cemetery. Here are some fun facts. Thomas Paxton was friends with General Lytle, and he also helped Lytle surveying lands in Clermont County all the way down into the Hyde Park community of Cincinnati. In honor of his surveying, a road was named after him, Paxton Avenue, which is now in Mount Lookout, Hyde Park, and also part of Oakley. Thomas Paxton's daughter Elizabeth was the first marriage in Clermont County in 1797 to John Donnell. Thomas Paxton's grandson, Colonel William Ramsey, son of Captain John and Isabella Paxton Ramsey, laid out the town of Loveland in 1848. Thomas Paxton's great-granddaughter, Captain John and Isabella Paxton Ramsey's granddaughter, Isabella Ramsey, married James Loveland on May 6, 1847, which that is how the town was named Loveland. We keep it in the family. So it is very exciting history. One of the things that's unique about Loveland is that you do have, especially Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Paxton, buried within your city limits, because he was considered the first permanent settler in the Northwest Territory, which is between the Little Miami River and the Scioto River. And he has so many of the credits as first. So not only with the Virginia military track, it's right here in your all hometown. So it is very important that we recognize the accomplishments and also to preserve what he has left behind in his legacy, along with Captain John Ramsey and also with Isabella Paxton Ramsey, along with their other descendants that are buried up there, that they took stakehold in this community and stayed here. While some of the other families moved west, they stayed here to better the area and also to help form what we now know as the city of Loveland. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Geiger.
I have a question. In my research on the city of Loveland and Colonel Thomas Paxton, I noted that he was named a captain right before the Revolutionary War started, or about that time.
Yeah, right after, yes.
And is it your understanding that he was at Trenton?
That I do not know. There is so much that has been written about Paxton and parts of things of Captain John Ramsey. Some of the records are not
very clear
where to be found.
Yeah.
But we are still now, because of online and people scanning, we are still finding more things. In fact, nobody could really determine, did he get a land grant for 1,100 acres or did he purchase 1,100 acres? And a few years ago, one of my distant cousins gave the original land grant copy to the Loveland Historical Society, and it is in black and white that he received that land grant in 1794. So it was 1,100 acres. It's hard to read. I think I know what happened is because that land was given to other Revolutionary War soldiers. For some reason, they did not take it. So then he was given all these different parcels. And with John Adams, President John Adams signed that, yes, he got the 1,100 acres here in this area.
I have my sixth great grandfather was at Trenton. He was certainly not an officer. He rowed one of the boats across the river. But you're right. When you go back and start looking at that stuff, it gets murky in a hurry.
It really does. And also with Captain John Ramsey, I had fortunate because of this preservation project. One of the people up in Pennsylvania that the grandfather owns the Paxton farm contacted me and says, whenever you can come up, you're more than welcome. And I took that trip in November and start mapping out where the Paxtons and the Ramseys were in the Bedford County and all the way down by Gettysburg and where they got married, and stood on a lot of that property. And it gets very interesting. And it was very gratifying that I could start tracing back and making the connections and finding concrete proof and just not hearsay.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions? I know Mr. Hart and I were fortunate enough to be there for the Beautification, and what a fantastic job that you've done with that cemetery, and what a great day that was. You know how to put on a dedication. That was amazing. Hundreds of people there. That was really an honor. And we have your key that you presented to the city on the wall.
Saw that,
thanks to you were thanking Mr. Kennedy for all the work he did to help with that. But you're right. We're very lucky to have that cemetery and all that history located within our city. That's one of the things that make this city unique. So thank you for sharing all of that history with us tonight.
And I just have to say, back in 1996, if we were in this room, it was not under a nice civil meetings. And I don't know if you know the history behind it. I won't go into it, but I want to say thank you, because we never thought we would come to the day where we actually partnered with Loveland and have a city manager that was behind this project and helped. Instead of being setting up roadblocks, he helped us find the solution to get this project through. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you for saying that. All right. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, so we do have a resolution a little later in the agenda, but I think it makes sense to have a discussion about this now, if there is any. And we'll just go ahead and vote on the resolution when we get to it. Does anybody have any further comment on this? Vice Mayor?
I would just make an observation, and I'm sure everybody would join in. I can't think of a more fitting or appropriate object of historic designation in Loveland than the Paxton Ramsey Cemetery, as well as the other cemetery that I don't think anybody's going to speak about, but it likewise has a rich history.
Any other comments? Yeah, a history that I was not at all aware of until it was in our packet and read about the Hill Wagner. And do you remember the name? Who was the Eagle Scout that helped with that project?
He had a very unique name. What was it again? I'm sorry. He was a wonderful kid
That
in
wasn't
Utah.
Yeehaw.
It was Ehaw.
John
Yeah,
Yeehaw.
John Ehaw. He bit off a lot more than he could chew, and he did a wonderful job. And so it's really there. I with Rob, I think it'll be easy for him to pick where his location for the plaque that the city supplies will be. We'll work with the Hill Wagner descendants to find the right location. Those are pretty impressive plaques that the city does. And we feel until such time as the city really, at this point, we're paying, the city budgets for these to encourage more people to do this. So,
All right. Any further discussion? Okay. We'll go ahead with the second reading of the ordinance. Ms. Brents?
Ordinance amending the schedule of municipal positions to increase the maximum salary range for non-bargaining city personnel. 2022-39.
Any comment on the legislation? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Ordinance 56 is adopted by a vote of 5-0.
All right. So now we are at the resolution. Want to read the first one?
Resolution designating the Ramsay Paxton Cemetery as a local historically listed property.
Comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Resolution 57 is adopted by a vote of 5-0.
All right. Read the next resolution, please.
Resolution designating the Hill Wagner Cemetery as a local historically listed property.
Any comment? Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Resolution 58 is adopted by a vote of 5-0.
Good. All right. There we go, Mr. Geiger. You're that's right. That's good. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We will not be offended if you take your what you brought there and hit the road. We will understand. All right, Mr. Kennedy.
So throughout as everyone knows, the city works. Actually, we'll be starting soon. Corey and Mark and I will be starting soon on the 2023 budget. And throughout the budget process, we meet with all the department heads. We go over all the different items that they need, some yeses, some nos along the way, and we plan our CIP, which is our capital improvement program. Through that process with Chief Huber, we designated the need for a new vehicle, fire prevention support vehicle that was used to be an older police car that was recently sold on Gov Deals. That for those of you that follow what LSFD does, fire prevention is a big component of what they do in both Loveland and Sims Township. And so the fire prevention vehicle is one of the items that Chief Huber designated as need. So we receive, I know I speak about this every time we buy a vehicle, but the city is part of the Ohio State Purchasing Program, which means that the city, what does that really mean? That means that the state of Ohio bids for contracts for everything from fire trucks to dump trucks to copiers and things like that, all the way down. And then we benefit by being a member of the cooperative purchasing program. A, we don't have to go for the bidding process. B, we get them at a much, much lower rate, and we benefit as a group. So the so Chief Huber felt, given that what the vehicle does, that a pickup truck would be the perfect use. So McCluskey Chevrolet has the Chevrolet contract for the state purchasing program in our area. So working with actually a local business, the city was able, the LSFD was able to secure a quote for a 2022 Chevy Silverado LTD 1500. For any of you that have recently priced one of those vehicles, $42,275 is a pretty good deal on behalf of the city. So we get that through the purchasing program, and that will be used as that. I spoke to McCluskey before I wrote the legislation, and that is a good price, so we won't be modifying that. We try to stay accurate. So the legislation is simply authorizing me to execute an agreement for the purchase of that vehicle.
All right. Any comment, questions? Read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2022 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 pickup truck for the Loveland Sims Fire Department.
Any comment on the legislation? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Resolution 59 is adopted by a vote of 5-0.
All right. Next item. I think this is Mr. Wright, correct?
Yes.
You want to just give a brief overview of what this is in our packet?
Yes, ma'am. This is the City of Loveland 2022 Comprehensive Master Plan. Presenting to Council this evening the final draft version of the Comprehensive Master Plan for the City of Loveland that the Comprehensive Master Plan Steering Committee, Mr. Hart, worked very hard on over the last couple of years with staff and McBride Dale Clarion. Just for reference, City Council last adopted the comp plan or a comp plan for the city in February of 2002. So it's about 20 years in the making, and a couple of years through COVID and some other adversity, they were able to put together a plan and have really a robust public engagement process, several events, culminating with the Master Plan Steering Committee making a recommendation at the April 27th meeting to forward the plan to Planning and Zoning. From that point, Planning and Zoning then, upon receipt of the plan, scheduled a special meeting on May 26th to review the plan, and at that meeting unanimously recommended final adoption of the plan with one modification as presented to them. The final version of the plan is now has been posted in draft form on the website, consistent with past versions of the plan. So without belaboring all of the content, it's one of those things that you really got to read and dive into. The plan really tackles a number of different areas, identifies development areas or opportunities in the city, particularly of note, the Loveland Madera corridor and the Chestnut Street property, both very important projects for the city moving forward, and has some other recommendations for protection of existing neighborhoods and kind of where do we go from here. So with that, the plan is presented to council at this time for its review and based upon the final recommendation from the Planning Commission.
All right. Thank you. I think we'll go to the chair, Mr. Hart.
Yeah, I in discussion with a couple of council members over the last couple days, I feel like just like we did with Planning and Zoning, we gave them some extra time to review the entire packet. It is a lengthy document and does have quite a bit of information in it. Feels like we would be rushing it, getting it on a Thursday, Friday, and then voting on it today, and not giving it its proper time and diligence and going through the details of it. It would be my recommendation. I would be willing to make a motion to put that off, table that for a little while.
Before we make that motion, does anybody have any comment on that or anything else with
Just
regard to this?
how long?
I think we're looking at the July 26th meeting.
That would be fine.
That's fine.
I mean, we spent 2 years on this thing.
Yeah,
And,
I
just
agree.
in terms of, we talked about it in our committee meeting, one of the last committee meetings we had. There's no reason to rush through this thing. This was in April. We gave Planning and Zoning a month to take a look at it. It just seems like it bears at least the same kind of attention in its final approval here.
Any other comment? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Appreciate it because it's a rather lengthy document. A lot of work went into it, and I think yes, council would appreciate the additional time to digest it, but also the public. And this is available on our website. So come between now and then, any comments or questions, I'm sure that you and the committee will be available to answer them. And we can, again, move forward with everybody having had plenty of time to review it.
Yeah, I'd be glad to take field questions over the next couple weeks as you guys go through it, or community members go through it and want to have questions. I'm more than willing to field some questions.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right. You want to go ahead?
With the mayor's permission, I make a motion to table the approval of the comprehensive master plan until our July 26th meeting.
28th.
Is it 28?
28th, I think.
Is that right?
The 28th meeting.
Yeah, no, the 26th.
26.
Second.
Oh, sorry. All the way till July?
Yeah, July
Okay.
Oh, you were looking at June.
I was looking at June. I'm sorry.
26th.
Second.
It's 26th. Yes. All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Next item is on page 162 of your agenda. Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mayor Bailey. This is a resolution. This is a resolution legislation for council, which would allow the city manager to execute an assignment agreement to assign the purchase contract for the real estate located at 106 West Loveland Avenue to the Adams County Land Reutilization Corporation, otherwise known as the Land Bank, or as the Adams County Land Bank. This will allow the land bank to hold the property, hold the title interest to the property because of special considerations and exemptions that the land banks enjoy relative to mitigating environmental issues, particularly when it comes to fuel stations. So throughout this process, throughout our due diligence process, worked with City Manager Kennedy and Solicitor Braun to identify the best strategy to give the city the best chance to apply for grant money and to have financial resources available to mitigate the environmental issues on the site. So with that, we were originally talking to the Claremont County Land Bank. Unfortunately, their timing and our timing didn't sync up. So we were able to reach out to the Adams County Land Bank, who had success in these matters in other communities, and they're able to work across jurisdictional boundaries in that regard. So they are willing. They are ready to help. They stand by. And I believe we're going to close this week
Thursday.
on that. So that will, if you recall, at either the meeting or a couple meetings prior, council authorized a contract amendment, which allows us to initiate the closing, and the deed will be held in escrow until the fuel station use is terminated. And then at that such time, the title will be transferred directly from the seller to the land bank. If the assignment agreement is approved, if the legislation is passed. So what does that do? What does that mean? The assignment agreement, there's some other agreements that follow with that, participation and donation agreements that are kind of commensurate with their paperwork. But at the end of the day, the assignment agreement governs the process. The city remains responsible for all the financial aspects of it. It is our responsibility. We're buying it. We made that very clear to the land bank. The land bank is simply holding the title, and they're obligated to give it back to us when we're finished. So commend Solicitor Braun for really putting together an ironclad agreement, and commend the land bank for being willing to reach across the county boundaries and help us. So,
Mr. Kennedy?
I just want to add, getting to watch Corey and Joe put this together goes back to what Councilman Blair made very clear, which is that the city recognized that the needs to clean the site up and has taken it on with the full responsibilities. And it is pretty impressive to see the maneuvering that goes on to make sure that the city is eligible for every pot of money possible, that this site is completely cleaned up. And the nice part about it is that it will still allow the city to be in a position to move the turn lane into our 2023 road program. So because by all the maps and what Corey's been able to decipher is, we'll be able to move forward with the turn lane part of it, which is that. So it's something I can't say enough about the efforts that Joe and Corey put together, because it is something. So it's really for the benefit of the city and for the environment. And I think living true to sort of the pledge that Councilmember Blair put in front of staff. So I really want to commend Corey and Joe on this project. It is something to see how they put this all together. So be remiss if I didn't say that. So
Yes, that's I've heard a lot of that over these last few weeks about the efforts that both of you have put in. So thank you for that. Any other comment?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Blair.
Is the Adams County Land Bank the only one of its kind?
So they're the closest and the most willing partner. That we
Closest
have.
geographically?
Yes, that we have. And to that, Adams County actually helped Brown County with some of these sites. And again, we were going to use Claremont County, but they have not yet formed. Now, they regretfully
They have not formed their land
They
bank.
have not yet formed. So they obviously regretfully informed us of that, and still are willing to partner with us on other projects. If you recall, they have the demolition grant program that through the state of Ohio that they are applying for, and that site is part of that. As there's 2 sites really in the city that and hopefully they can form in time to take that money. I believe that's their goal. I think they will probably have an organizational meeting either at the end of this month or early next month. But the timing was such that we were really lucky to find a stand-in with prior experience, and that was very important.
So essentially, Adams County Land Bank is acting as sort of an escrow along the way until we get all the approvals in place to do what we need to do.
Yes, basically they're going to hold title to it because the land bank has basically they're exempt from a lot of the environmental considerations and liability that a traditional owner, even the city, might be. And in fact, we had conference calls with Buster this week, Solicitor Braun and I and Mr. Kennedy, and we were advised by Buster that they were very pleased to see the path that we had put forward here and that we're following, because the last thing they want to do is make a phone call to somebody that's closed on a property and say, whoa, you didn't follow the right steps. So we got the thumbs up from them that we're doing the right thing, and then we've got some other procedural hurdles that will follow along the way. Integral to that is the title, the deed being held in escrow until the gas station user terminates and leaves, at which time it will subsequently be recorded to the Adams County Land Bank. When we go through all of our work and we notify them, they then have to transfer the deed to the city.
So they're contractually obligated to transfer it back to us.
Yes, as part of the assignment agreement.
Suppose we decide we don't want to, we discover, I don't know, spent uranium down there. It was something. Then what's our obligation to perform on the contract?
Well, I'll defer to Solicitor Braun.
Yeah. So part of our agreement with them is that they are indeed a holding entity. So we would have to take it back at some point. We could not hold on to it if we wanted to for whatever reason. But I think it's the intent of the city to use this property to bring relief to residents of Warren County that have been experiencing traffic problems. So if for some reason council were to decide not to keep the property, we would take title to it and we would have to move it along. I also want to add, I think your original question is how did we end up way out in Adams County, which might be one of your questions because there are other land banks. And I think we had a very short window of time when Claremont County notified us just a couple weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, that this wasn't going to work for us. And I had a prior relationship in Brown County with the Adams County Land Bank and was able to utilize that relationship to basically say, hey, you did this out there. Can you do it here? And after Corey met with them, they were more than willing to help us. But they do this and to answer your question, they do this frequently where they will hold on to the property. They often do it for demolition, things like that. Then once the remediation and the state funds are used to clean it up, then they don't want to own it. They want to pass it off.
So what's their take?
They get an administrative fee for doing it. And that's the purpose of a land bank. When they do it in their own community, for instance, Adams County, it improves the quality for residents of Adams County of that land because it's being remediated. Their only benefit to helping us, quite frankly, is to leverage that relationship with us as a favor. They get a fee. I think it's $1,000.
Okay.
An administrative fee. Quite frankly, for all the work that's being performed, it's probably not worth it. Their attorney, we pay the attorney's fees. They have no costs, hard costs. We pay any testing and things like that we want to have done on it. But it really is just, quite frankly, a favor because the Claremont County Land Bank would typically be our entity. And I think going forward, we do intend to develop a relationship with the Claremont Land Bank, and hopefully they'll be organized enough to do that.
But this won't in any way or shape or form get in the way of mitigating that site.
Actually, it makes it possible to mitigate that site because essentially it keeps them out of the liability chain so that we as a city can apply and tap into certain state funds that will be ensured that property is remediated up to state standards. And then only after it's remediated will it come out of the name of the land bank and flow back to the city of Loveland. But that will not deter us from starting the road project. That the nice thing about this is the way that we're doing it and the way that the engineer drawings and things go, we'll actually be able to start working on the turn lane simultaneous to remediating the property.
Okay.
If we,
Thank you.
and to your point, if we didn't do the mechanism we're going through, we wouldn't be able to tap into those funds because we wouldn't be able to take on that liability.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing and what I understand is this is by no means an end around the environmental agencies.
I'm just making sure.
In fact, it enhances the likelihood that these things get accomplished and get accomplished faster because they hold it. We do what we're supposed to do. We get it back. In the meantime, there are benefits in terms of avoiding liability. The EPA can't come in and penalize us or the Adams County Land Bank. And it facilitates redevelopment and ultimately deliverable of repurposed land in this case.
Great.
Anyone else? All right, read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an assignment agreement between the City of Loveland, Ohio, and the Adams County Land Reutilization Bank for the real property located at 106 West Loveland Avenue.
Comment on the resolution. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Resolution 60 is adopted by a vote of 5-0.
Mr. Medler.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an auditing housekeeping item. We had a PO for a 2021 expense, but the purchase order was closed during the year-end process before we could make payment. Per Ohio Revised Code, Council needs to authorize a new PO so that we can pay the invoice. Funding is available.
Any comment or questions? Read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the Director of Finance to issue a then and now certificate for payment of expenditures.
Comment on the resolution. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Resolution 61 is adopted by a vote of 5-0.
All right, Mr. Kennedy.
The operation of mobile food units in the H district, which is largely the downtown district, was originally initiated back when the downtown business district of the city was in a whole different place. And the reasoning and the motivation and the process through what we call an application to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a special exception was put in place, and it had a purpose. Obviously, we're in a little bit of a different situation. Mobile food units are actually handled through two steps: a zoning code through 111107, 111108, and of course through the table of permitted uses, which permits mobile food units to be operated within the city, within the H district through the special exception process. They're also dictated by City Code Chapter 732, which is a little bit more of the down and dirty parts of them, but in unison together, this is how they're supposed to be administered. Recently, there was an application for a mobile food unit, and I think, which it should, and which is why these meetings are in the public, it raised the it raised the issue that we need to rethink this, look at it from a different angle, because we're not where we were 10, 12 years ago in the downtown district. So not to go into a lot of details, because I'm a big proponent of that when you're discussing code amendments, you need to let them go through the process. There's public hearings that will go through. And, but in the meantime, I think the Planning Commission did the right thing by asking me to ask you, and it would be done via motion, that we put a temporarily or that we suspend special exception permits for mobile food truck vending units. There's special exceptions for other types of uses. So, and at that point in time, if council so chooses to allow me to begin, that would be effective the 14th. I will also then, through the law and ordinance process, take Chapter 732 to the law and ordinance. These will be done on your behalf, council. So they'll both circle back. Text amendments are done just like zoning map amendments. There's a public hearing on behalf of the Planning Commission. They come back via Andy, and through resolution, you'll set a public hearing. We'll do a text amendment. And of course, through law and ordinance, they would go through the whole process. Todd's on the law and ordinance committee. So is Ted. Councilmember Phelps, and so that would get through that process. So it allows us to, makes it a little easier on Eva and the ladies up front in the building and zoning department to say, well, you know, at this point in time, City Council passed a motion that we no longer accept special exceptions, and it allows us to really dig deep into this. So with that, I was recommending that via motion, I request that you would then request that the city manager direct staff to temporarily suspend accepting applications for special exceptions to permit their operation of mobile food units effective June 14th, 2022.
All right.
We don't need any action on the 732. So.
Gotcha. Any questions or comments? All right. Would someone care to make a motion?
I'll move to request that the city manager direct staff to temporarily suspend accepting applications for special exceptions to permit the operation of mobile food units effective June 14th, 2022. During that suspension time, that review would be done by planning and zoning and law and order, and that would return in some form or fashion to council thereafter.
Said law and order.
I did. Law and ordinance. Sorry.
Restore order.
I made you do that.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
I think for
Carries 5 to 0.
I need to clarify something. I do want to clarify for something. This does not address mobile food units that would come in as part of an event, 4th of July. Those are not handled through the special. That's why I tried to word that motion very specifically. Special exception. This will not affect an event. This would not affect Oktoberfest, July 4th. Mobile food units that are part of an event are a whole different ball of wax. So that's why we worded it that way. Just want to make sure everybody know I'm not being the killjoy of everything. No, I think it's important. I wouldn't want to do that to CC.
Agreed. Okay. Next on the agenda, the committee minutes and reports. Anybody have any comments on those?
I just have a quick comment. I think the notion of historic preservation, where we've got somebody like an Eagle Scout, when we make the presentation or do the vote on it like we did tonight, I'd like to have the Eagle Scout, where it's possible.
You're right.
Because we wouldn't be having it without it.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. The last item in your agenda are beautification committee appointments. We had Robin Gagan and Terry Puckett resigned from the beautification committee. We already had sort of a low number on that committee. And when we put out the notice that we needed more members, we actually had more than we're even suggesting tonight. That was the interest. So there are 4 names here that we're seeking to appoint to the beautification committee for partial terms expiring on December 31st. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them, but otherwise would appreciate a motion to affirm those appointments.
I'll move to approve the appointments of Carolyn Williman, Susan Gorman, William Hartman, and Monica Amberg to the Beautification Committee for partial terms expiring on December 31, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, upcoming events. June 16th, Little Miami River Chamber Alliance has their third Thursday concert featuring Model Behavior. That'll be at Hometown Cafe from 6 to 9. This Saturday, June 18th, is the Amazing Charity Race, the last one. June 19th is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all of you fathers out there. June 23rd, 24th, 25th, Loveland Stage Company Singing in the Rain Junior. Is that correct? You can visit the website for showtimes and tickets, the Loveland Stage Company's website. June 25th, Loveland Art League has their second annual art gallery crawl from 4 to 9 p.m. And on Sunday, June 26th, Concert in the Park is Vinyl Countdown 6 to 8 at Nisbet. Anybody have any other announcements? All right. I believe we need a motion for executive session.
I'll move to adjourn council to go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G3 to consider the appointment of a public official.
Is there a second?
Second.
Someone?
Second.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Twice.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Motion carries.
You point out that you do anticipate action.
Well, it's on the agenda. So we're going to go have a quick conversation, and then we'll bring back each of the applicants individually. It is 9:38. We have returned from executive session. Mr. Bateman did join us at the beginning of the executive session and was with us throughout that. I do want to thank everybody that applied for this open position. Very much appreciate your interest. One thing that is certainly clear is how much all of you care about this city, and very much appreciate that. With that, we'll accept nominations for to fill the seat. Mr. Blair.
I'd like to nominate Neil Orr to fill the seat. I have known Neil since 2017 when I first joined council. I believe he has the experience. He's just served a 4-year term and ran and put himself before the voters a second time, and I think that he got the second most votes, or the next most votes of any candidate who ran in the last election, and because of all those reasons, I think he should be back on council.
All right. Are there any other nominations? Is there any discussion? Mr. Pink.
Just, I guess, a general comment that, I think we would all be in agreement that, as the mayor has already said, there are a number of very good candidates. We are fortunate to have such a group. And, and not everybody can be on council. There has to be someone chosen. But, it's certainly a fair statement to say that I think what we heard tonight is a group of people that we could work with, anybody. And so, there will be other opportunities, and certainly, I think that we could all work together. And that's the common theme that we heard tonight was working for Loveland. And, it's a great thing to have this many people interested in the position. So I think it's a very positive thing for the future of Loveland that we have this kind of interest. And hopefully we'll have that continuing on in coming years.
Any other comment? Okay.
Just say, we again recognize that, Neil, you've got deep roots in this community, and you've been a proven contributor to the city in a variety of ways over the years. And again, everybody that we interviewed, I think, brings to the table their own unique things that are positives as well. But your background and your experience, I think, was helpful. Appreciate that.
Any other comment? All right. With that, call the roll.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Congratulations. Podium.
I should have called Mr. Bateman. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
All right. Ready? I state your name.
I, Nia Ori,
Solemnly swear that I will support
solemnly swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
Constitution of the State of Ohio,
Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances
and the Charter and
of the
ordinances
City of
of the
Loveland.
City of Loveland,
Will obey the laws thereof,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of City Council member upon which I am about to enter.
of City Council member, which I'm about to enter. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Welcome. That's true.
Look forward to working.
Look forward to working with you.
All right, truly, thank you to all of you, though. It's not easy to do that. It's not easy to go through the process. Not easy to put your name forward. So we thank you all very much for your interest. We appreciate it. With that, we have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Ori? Yes.